Hello and welcome back. And this week on the Watercolour Workshop, I'm cleaning my palette. Don't worry, it's not very dull. I'm going to make a painting at the same time. So here's my palette. It's a bit of a mess. It's from our previous paintings. I'm just squirting a little bit of water on it first to soften up those blobs. Now I use tube paint. And what I do when I'm making a painting is I squeeze a fresh blob from the tube onto my palette each time. It's very easy to work with. And then I do the painting. And inevitably, at the end of each painting, there tends to be a little bit of paint left over, which I just let dry in the palette and reuse again, like this, on subsequent paintings. But for now, for this session, I want to completely clean the palette. I would normally leave this, use all these colours if I needed them in other paintings, but I want to clean it off and start again with a set of new colours. So yeah, like I said, I've squirted them with water and I'm painting some random shapes and colours onto the paper. This is a sea white recycled watercolour block. It's 25% cotton, it's 300 GSM and it's 20 centimetres or 8 inches square. So I'm painting using mostly a yellow colour. That's probably transparent yellow, or maybe it's yellow ochre. The brown is a burnt umber and the dark colour is Payne's grey. So I painted some blobs along the bottom, some little shapes, and I'm now putting in mostly water, a little bit of blue there, looks like phthalo blue. And I've got some clean water as well. I'm using the clean water to work away from that area of paint. So as you can see, when I touch the paint when I touch the water to the paint flows into the water. So if you want to have a practice or a play, you can do this kind of thing. This is all I'm doing here. I've not really got anything in mind other than having a go at this plastic rock thing. I saw a tutorial for this years ago and I thought I'd have a try. So the idea is that you paint some random colours onto the paper and then you scrape out some shapes using a piece of plastic card. It looks really easy, but as you can see, it's not necessarily that easy. There are a few tricks which I eventually learn to the end, but for the time being, I'm struggling a little bit here. There's three main problems. Number one is the colours that I've used. The yellow is not very convincing as a rock. Number two problem, I think the paint has already dried too much for me to do this. I think it needs slightly thicker, creamier paint. And number three, the texture of the paper is just not working on those rocks. Right, so first things first, let's get rid of some of that yellow, and I've got some of my dark Payne's grey. I blobbed it on top of the yellow. Now I'm hunting round for a little stick. There we go. So normally when you put Payne's grey and yellow together, you get a green, and you can see that it has formed a very dark olive green. So yeah, these could be some weeds or grasses growing up through the rocks. I'll scratch them out with a stick. You could use the end of a brush for this, or I've seen people use twigs from the garden, fingernails, anything with a point. Back to the card. I think it's still a bit wet. I'm scraping that across dry paper, which is completely pointless. Don't bother doing that at home. Yeah, don't do that. Okay, more paint. I'm going with some darker this time, I think. So that's burnt umber, and that's some of the Payne's grey as well. Even a touch of black in there, I think. And then that's a browny orange colour. Bit like burnt sienna. Oh, let's have a go again. Don't think I've got the hang of this yet. Right. Okay, let's put that to one side. And let's paint in a more traditional method. Got my dark colour again, and this is a number 7 round brush, synthetic brush. I'm going to paint a tree using the dark colours on the palette. So start at the base of the tree and work my way up. Start with a big thick trunk and then some random squiggles coming out of the top and the sides to represent the branches. Try to keep them fairly random in shape. I skipped ahead there because it was basically a shot of my hand. I painted in the extra branches. They're roughly thicker at the bottom and thinner at the top, but not exactly that way. So I'm just going over them now and making sure that they are actually thicker at the base than at the tip. It's a fantasy tree, obviously, but it still needs to be convincing. And trees are always obviously thicker at the bottom than they are at the top. Switch to a rigger brush now, just to get some little twigs in. Get a little bit more finesse in what I'm doing. There we go. Don't have to worry too much. This is just a cleaning exercise, don't forget. A little practice, a little play with the paints. Bit of spatter. Why not? Oh, a bit of yellow as well. Yellow and dark, like a kind of greeny colour. And I'm putting some on the tree as well. Maybe that'll form into a kind of mossy texture. Got a big blob up there. Let's get rid of that. Let's turn that into a bird. Looks more like a dragonfly. Let's turn that into a dragonfly. Back to the card. I'm dragging it across the trunk of the tree. And this looks better than the rocks. Now here the paper, the texture of the paper is working in our favour because we're getting a nice bark texture by scraping some of the paint off. Let's have one final go at the rocks. Got a nice big patch of softened paint here now because I sprayed it with water about 20 minutes ago. It's a bit more workable. So let's use some of that. Let's see what we get. Put the yellow on at the end, it means it's not as intense as when I first started. Let's get the card on that, see what happens again. Oh yeah, that's a bit better now. Maybe I'm getting the hang of it. Maybe it's thicker paint. I think if you scrape once, try to do it once rather than 2 or 3 times, you get a better effect. I'll just drag some of that wet paint down to give myself a little bit of texture at the bottom. That is a little bit better. Okay, back to the stick. Get those grasses back in. I think that should do it. I'm just tidying up the jagged edge of the tree here. I'm dragging my brush across the bark again. Add some more random texture. And I'm going to paint some roots to anchor the tree into the ground. This is the rigger brush again. So a suggestion of a roots there and a more obvious one there. I'm going to tidy up those patches of colour to paint a round rock shape. There it is dry. Quite interesting effects. And I've got a cleaner palette. Let me know what you think in the comments, and thank you for watching.